I have smashed more gangs than Keir Starmer's Labour government. On Tuesday, I exposed how thousands of people are queuing up to get to Britain. Let's try and see if we can have a look here at what the situation is. Some kind of makeshift sanitation centre there, stalls, water everywhere. Now, they get all of this from the supermarket, which is just a little bit over a motorway there. And we've seen people, witnessed people going in, stealing the water, in some cases stealing beer actually, and then dodging a police dog on the way out. We've got a barbecue going on here, which I must say does actually smell quite nice. Hello? Can I look at this? No? Okay, but anyway, there's a barbecue here which looks quite nice. Take a close look at what you see in this video. You'll notice it's mostly men, isn't it? It's mostly men. And a variety of different people here from different parts of the world. We've spoken to people from Sudan, from Eritrea, from Afghanistan. Hello. There's a big Red Cross, I think it is anyway. Yeah, Red Cross Française. So there's a medical tent here where they can get their medical supplies. There's other bits and bobs going on over here. So there we go. Right, look at that yellow bin with the letters PKK graffitied on the front of it. Well, just moments ago on social media, apparently it appears that someone living in that camp has put these videos out. Well, and police seem to be raiding that migrant camp, and... Same yellow bin. There we go. So 2 days ago, we went viral for exposing the reality of the invasion of Britain from France. We spent quite a bit of time in that very migrant camp, raising serious questions about where £1 billion worth of your taxpayers' money is going. And then today, bingo, the French police raid that camp. Do you think that's a coincidence? This is why it's important to go to these places and actually expose what's going on. We have disrupted the small boat crisis more in one day than Keir Starmer has in nearly a year. But the Prime Minister was actually utterly humiliated again today. Remember when he proudly did this?
The Rwanda scheme was dead and buried before it started. It's never been a deterrent. Everybody has worked out, particularly the gangs that run this, that the chance of ever going to Rwanda was so slim, less than 1%, that it was never a deterrent.
He scrapped Rwanda on day one. Well, what's happened since? So, some hugely embarrassing breaking news for the Prime Minister this evening. Our Home and Security Editor, Mark White, has just phoned in and he's told us we can now reveal around 600 small boat migrants arrived in the UK today alone. Now, I just want everyone at home to understand that every single person in this room is absolutely desperate to come to Britain. Huge numbers crossing the channel. Half of Sudan is in a warehouse near a lorry park waiting to break into Britain. And Starmer's getting hammered in the polls. So today, he did this.
What now we want to do, and we're having discussions on, talks on, is return hubs, which is where someone's been through the system in the UK, they need to be returned, and we have to make sure they're returned effectively, and we'll do that if we can through return hubs. So that's what the talk's about.
There he is, our Prime Minister in Albania, talking of return hubs. The briefing was that Albania was one of his preferred destinations. So step forward, the Albanian leader.
The model that we've brought to Albania in cooperation with Italy, this is something that I've said from the outset. It is a model that takes its time to be tested. And if it works, it can be replicated, but not in Albania.
He's not going to do it. The Prime Minister has gone there asking for these return hubs, and the Albanians have said no. Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, said this trip is an embarrassment. Starmer jetted off, and now the Albanian Prime Minister has made clear that there will be no UK return hubs in Albania. So what was the point of that entire visit? Look, no plan, no vision, no conviction. If you really want to stop the boats, Prime Minister, why not just put GB News in charge of the job? So thoughts of my panel. We've got former Tory MP Anna Firth. We've also got senior political correspondent at the Daily Express, Christian Calgie, and ex-Labour Party advisor Matthew Larzer. Anna, I'll start with you. So, firstly, it does appear that the French have now smashed a migrant encampment that I was at a couple of days ago. So maybe we should station ourselves there permanently.
Well, Patrick, obviously you've achieved great things. You've achieved things that Keir Starmer.
Sorry, I wasn't actually here just to desperately try to get a load of praise.
The point here, Patrick, is what an embarrassment that conference was over in Albania. I mean, it's the juxtaposition. It was little, wasn't it? Little Starmer and large Albanian Prime Minister. I mean, he must have gone out there expecting he was going to get some. Why else? Why else did he go to Albania? And instead he's humiliated himself and he's humiliated the British people in the process. And he's realised, he's now realised that governing is actually a hell of a lot more difficult than being in opposition.
I think Starmer shattered socialism for decades in this country because the second he's come into office, he started behaving exactly like the Tories. He's developed a Tory ideology.
Except with one thing, the Rwanda plan, which of course we know it cost a fortune, and it didn't get off the ground.
More Home Secretaries went, didn't they, Anna?
Yes, we know all of that, Matthew.
Didn't manage to send anybody.
Many times before. But the point here is
because it
was having a deterrent effect, and this thing, this return hub, it's Rwanda-like. It's not going to work.
No, it's not.
The reason it's not going to work is because 70% of people get granted asylum in this country.
Fine. Christian, what do you think about this? Because it does look, to the untrained observer, it would look a lot like a bloke joyously scrapped Rwanda on day one and is now thinking, I really wish I had something like Rwanda.
Yes, well, yeah, I think it's a good point. And what I think today's announcement has sort of proved is Starmer's admitting that his current policy doesn't have anywhere near enough of a deterrent, and he needs to do something. Now, this is slightly different to Rwanda. The idea isn't necessarily that they'd be moved to these countries, but the EU is pursuing something very similar. Ursula von der Leyen is also pursuing the idea of offshoring hubs, maybe in Egypt, as part of a deterrent. It's a less strong deterrent than Rwanda or an alternative, but it's certainly there. And it does prompt questions about whether Keir Starmer remotely knew what he was getting into. I don't for a second doubt that Keir Starmer, with his, King's Council judicial wig on, thought that he could, really bash some heads together in the civil service and, with a bit of extra manpower and get all these migrants processed. But the reality, his eyes were not open to the scale of the challenge. And all those men that you filmed culturally enriching the north of France, soon to culturally enrich Britain, that camp has been shut down, and I'm sure it's a great relief to the local supermarché. But they'll just pop up somewhere else. It's like trying to play whack-a-mole. And if we're talking about deterrence, one of the biggest deterrents, if you think all of these people are economic migrants, right? None of them are refugees because they're in a safe country. The only reason they want to come to Britain are the benefits, the welfare. If we wanted to provide a deterrent that was sort of legal within the ECHR, we'd just ban any illegal migrant from ever claiming any welfare.
All right, Matthew. So look,
they can't claim
a lot of the election was, as you well know, all about smashing the gangs and this, that and the other. Now, that has clearly not happened. The problem, as it currently stands, is worse than it was a year or so ago, just in terms of raw numbers. Now here we are, nearly a year into his premiership, and he's talking about return hubs. He's making it up as he goes along, isn't he?
No, because you heard it here first. I've talked about this, that they were going to announce this for months on this very sofa. Yes, absolutely. I've said that there was going to be offshore processing, and which is exactly what this is. Okay. And I've said that the reason why Rwanda wouldn't work, and let's remind ourselves of the huge cost of Rwanda, 541 million for 300 people, 1.8 million per migrant. The key difference... Anna, please let me finish.
Not last time, Matthew. So maybe you'll just accept one interruption.
Well, I don't think I'm going to have a choice.
Rwanda was... No, you actually don't. Rwanda was actually... Rwanda was actually showing signs of...
No, it wasn't.
Even before the planes were supposed to...
Absolutely no evidence for that, Anna, so that's not a fact. So to go back to what I was saying, the huge cost of Rwanda, there's a big difference. Let's just look at the practicalities of this. This is not shipping people out to a foreign country and processing them under foreign law. This is people would be processed in the UK, and then when they have failed, they would be sent to a returns hub from whence they could go back to the idea would be going back to a third country. Well, we can't. In some countries, we won't take them back, and some countries, and also, whilst they're waiting, they're in hotels, so you can't have it both ways. And one other thing is, Christian, you said that people come here so they can claim benefits. The real reason, if you speak to all those migrants in the camps that want to come here, is because we don't have ID cards. And who blocked ID cards when the last Labour government tried to introduce them? Oh, yes, it'd be those Tories, wouldn't it?
I don't think the migrants in those camps were saying they want to come to Britain because they don't have ID cards.
No, they want to come to Britain to work, and you can work in the black economy because we don't have ID cards.
Did an interview with Patrick, you could barely speak 2 words of English, and they weren't ID cards.
No, because he wants to come to work, and you can work if you don't have an ID card. Everybody in France and Germany will tell you that the reason that Britain is seen as a soft touch is because we don't have ID cards. The government hasn't said it will introduce them. It should. And of course, Blair tried to introduce them, and the Tories, including people like David Davis, shot them down on insane grounds.
Matthew, do you accept that the only way a deterrent works is if people actually think there is a chance that I won't end up in Britain, I might end up in the Balkans? And
well, that's what he's just said.
Exactly. But listen,
I'm listening. It doesn't make sense, Anna.
No, you're not actually listening. If, in fact, the majority of the people in this country get granted asylum, which they do, then...
You were a barrister, weren't you, Anna? You know there's an independent judicial system. Keir Starmer doesn't sit in Downing Street going, we'll have this one and not have that one. And you didn't leave the ECHR. Did you vote to leave the ECHR? You were in Parliament. You were in Parliament for 2.5 years. You didn't vote to leave the ECHR. You want to now? You didn't then. You did nothing.
Same as Keir Starmer.
No, I'm not. You're just talk, Anna. It's all talk. Do you admit that your government did nothing?
Guys, we've got radio listeners.
Matthew, what you haven't...
Did you admit your government did nothing?
Unless you answer my question...
Do you want to leave the ECHR? Do you want to leave the ECHR?
I think we are rapidly getting...
So you can't even make your mind up yet. And that's why Calamity Kemi is slipping to fourth in the polls behind the Lib Dems. Good luck, Anna. There's no point finding a seat. There won't be any seats to have.
I'm going to sue GB News for tinnitus on this.
Okay, all right, fine.
Sorry to the viewers
let me just, before we round off this segment, I would like to make the point. I think going earlier on this week showed a couple of things. So firstly, how the true scale of the problem, obviously how many people that there are there. But despite the fact that the French have now lined up with quite a few police cars and shut down a migrant camp, I'm really honest with you, I saw absolutely no evidence of where a single penny of the £1 billion that British taxpayers have sent to the French has gone.
That the Tories signed up for.
Yeah, fine. But I've seen... Well, she's now continuing.
Yeah, no, and we shouldn't.
Yeah.
We shouldn't. I think it's wrong.
Yeah,
but Anna sat there and voted for it.
Your government is continuing. Yvette Cooper was saying...
Did you vote against it, Anna, or did you vote for it when you had the chance?
I absolutely...
You voted for it, yes. You voted for it. Fact.
The French have... I'm not denying how I voted. I'm not denying how I voted.
The idea of giving France money to help deal with this problem is not in of itself a bad idea. The problem is what they're actually doing with it. And the Express, I think last year, did a report where we sent cameras and they were all, getting hammered in a nightclub whilst boats were actually setting off from the north coast. So they're clearly, France is absolutely taking us for a ride, as did, Kigali in Rwanda.
Yeah,
exactly.
You look at the geography of it there, I get it, look, hey, it's 70-odd miles of coastline, don't get me wrong, it's not the thing that you can just stop every single thing overnight, but goodness gracious me, you could be doing a heck of a lot more than...
Absolutely, and the mickey has been taken.
A fantastic solution would actually be for us to sort of own the North French coastline.
Should we invade?
War with France, let's do it.
With France, everybody.
Sadly, I'm too old to serve.
Sensible policies for a happier Britain.
Don't get us on the BBC. Right,